Hello ma'am, good morning. We're here to give meaning and give some example about 8 web design principle. So, what are the 8 components of web design principle? The parts of 8 web design is visual hierarchy, divine proportion, Hex law, rule of thirds, gist of design law, which has 6 parts of it, which is law of proximity, law of similarity, law of closure, law of symmetry, law of common fate, and law of continuity. That's it. The second to the last of 8 web design is white space and clean design. And lastly, the Occam's razor. So way back to visual hierarchy. What is visual hierarchy, by the way? Visual hierarchy is one of the most important principles behind good web design. To be specific, it is the order in which the human eye perceives what it sees. Another meaning of it is the ranking of elements. Example. Where we can locate and find example on the visual hierarchy on this screenshot picture of Google. Actually, there are only small examples on this picture, but likewise here, the arrangement of the apps under the search of Google, that's visual hierarchy. And from the color word Google, without knowing about this word, we were able to determine the word and the Gmail and images word and my picture that is also part of visual hierarchy, and the word customized from the bottom of the picture that is already hidden there. So, I think this is the only visual hierarchy in this picture. So, now, let's go to Miss Cabrera and Naomi. She will give meaning and example on divine proportion and Hex law. Miss Cabrera,
Divine proportion. When Luca Pacioli published the Divine Proportion in 1509 with illustrations by Leonardo da Vinci, he described his work on his golden ratio of 1.618 as a very delicate, subtle, and admirable teaching that would delight in diverse questions touching on a very secret science. Johannes Kepler later called it a precious jewel of geometry. The designers at Google have apparently found its value too, as we see when we study and appreciate the underlying design of Google's new logo, iconic G, the microphone icon, and even the layout of the Google search page. Hicks Law. In 1952, Hicks published an article in the Quarterly Journal of Experimental Psychology. On the rate of gain of information, it played a seminal role in the cognitive revolution and established one of the few widely acknowledged laws in psychology, relating choice reaction time to the number of stimulus response alternatives, or amount of uncertainty. In a test, we review the historical context in which Hicks conducted his study and described his experiments and theoretical analysis. Perhaps most impressive about Hicks' law is that it continues to spawn research efforts to represent, and it is regarded as a fundamental law of interface. Design of human-computer. Interaction using technologies that did not exist at the time of Hicks' research.
Next law is Fitts law. Fitts law states that the amount of time required for a person to move a pointer to a target area is a function of the distance to the target divided by the size of the target. Thus, the longer the distance and the smaller the target size, the longer it takes. So, given example is the search bar from Google. As you can see, it is bigger than the other function because it is more convenient, and the rule of thirds states that an image should be divided into 9 equal parts by 2 equally spaced horizontal lines and 2 equally spaced vertical lines. Important compositional elements should be placed along these lines or at their intersection. Given here is the search bar. To apply the rule of thirds means that the image has to be divided by 9 equal parts by 2 equally vertical and horizontal lines for the image to be emphasized and easier to identify.
Stout design laws. Stout concepts or laws are rules which describe how the human eye views visual elements. These definitions help to clarify how complex things can be condensed into simple shapes. They often attempt to understand how the eyes as a single unified form view the shapes rather than the numerous simpler elements involved. And there are 6 laws under this principle. And the first law is the law of proximity. The law of proximity describes how the human eye perceives connection between visual elements. Elements that are close to each other are perceived to be related or grouped, when compared with elements that are far away from each other perceived to be unrelated or ungrouped.
Law of similarity. The law of similarity states grouping similar things together that can be shapes, colors, or other qualities. Under the law of similarity, there is an image of the Google website where you can notice that the words Filipino and Cebuano have the same font style, color, and size. They are beside each other because they are both languages. At the bottom left and bottom right of the website, law of similarity is also applied. At the right part of the slide, you can notice that there are applications that involves Google and they are all in one group. These are located at the upper right of the Google website under the 9 squares. Next, let us have the law of closure, which states filling visual gap when lines are not complete. There is an image of a woman at the center under the law of closure. This is one of the Google Doodles. The frame where the image was located, there are lines that are not closed or not complete, but then the user will just fill the gap and forming the letter O or oblong to complete the word Google.
Law of symmetry. The idea that elements appear to be seen as symmetrical shapes that form around their center when we view them. Another way we can create groups or relationship is by trying to make things symmetrical. Looking at this picture above, we tend to see 3 pairs of symmetrical brackets rather than 6 individual brackets. It is because there is symmetry formed around the central point. Law of common fate. Elements that move in the same direction are perceived as being more related than elements that are moving in a different direction or are stationary. This law adds the additional element of time and movement. Most people will see this as 2 distinct groups of arrows connected by their common direction of movement.
Law of continuity says that items placed in a certain row or direction are seen as a group. In the following examples, you can see row of questions people ask, or submenu items that are placed one under another or placed in a column as well. This can be often seen in Google. Next is white space and clean design. White space, also called negative space, it is a portion of web design that remains empty. White space is important in web design because it enables objects within it to exist. The following are pictures you can see at Google. You can see clearly the spaces within them, and that's what we call white space or negative space.
Occam's razor, developed by a 14th century English logician and physician friar by the name of William Occam. In doing Occam's razor, first is be open-minded to being challenged, be prepared to be wrong. Running a startup is like being punched in the face repeatedly. Second is location matters a lot. The first location of Google is in Menlo Park, California, wherein they use the garage. Third is momentum is your best friend for fundraising. Fourth is investors look for things when assessing the new tech startups, like will people use it, will people pay for it? That's why Occam's razor is important in creating a website. In conclusion, your website design is more important for conversions than you think. Design is not just something designers do. Design is marketing, design is your product and how it works.